disclosing in its earnings this week that its digital asset holdings are currently worth about $1.25 billion. That's up sharply from a year ago. A new piece on CNBC.com looks at the money they left on the table, though, after they sold 3/4 of their holdings in 22. You can check out the full story on CNBC.com. I did peek at that, and I think if they had held everything, it wouldn't be $1.25 billion. It'd be worth about $5.
Ooh, they could use that.
Yes.
They could use that.
Happy Bitcoin Friday, freaks. It's your host, Odell, here for another Citadel Dispatch, the interactive live show focused on actual Bitcoin and freedom tech discussion. That intro was CNBC, I believe today, talking about how Tesla fumbled the bag on their Bitcoin treasury. I think that's an interesting theme to watch, not whether or not companies will actually start stacking sats. But the opportunity cost they've had from not doing it. I think CNBC is probably one step away from realizing that, yeah, Tesla probably shouldn't have sold their Bitcoin, but any company that didn't acquire any Bitcoin actually had even bigger opportunity cost loss than Tesla. At least Tesla stacked some Bitcoin. Anyway, freaks, our show today has absolutely nothing to do with that, but it just seemed like an interesting timestamp in the world of Bitcoin. Dispatch is funded by our audience. We have no ads or sponsors. We are powered by viewers like you sending Bitcoin to the show. The two easiest ways to do that is through Zaps on Nostr, where you can find the show at primal.net/citadel, or through podcasting 2.0 apps like Fountain Podcasts, which you can find in your favorite app store. The largest Zap on Fountain last episode was from Stimmy 40 HPW. He sent 21,000 sats, said, "Great to hear from Kaufman. While Spectre was a game changer in 2020, Keeper looks like a solid tool for today's new coiners." And the largest zap on Nostr was from Ride or Die Freak, Mav21 with 10,000 sats. Thank you, freaks, for supporting the show. All relevant links are at citadel-dispatch.com. Anyway, I have Hodlbod here, good friend, return guest. He's heavily focused on Nostr. Specifically, he's got two projects, Flotilla and Coracle, that he maintains. How's it going, Hodlbod?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Matt.
The pleasure is all mine. We have Zapstream working. I see Pseudo Carlos, Ride or Die Freak, asking, is it working? The attacker is asleep today and is not attacking the stream.
I'm not worth DDoSing, I guess. Oh, well.
It was starting to go to my head that the DDoSes were only happening during my shows. Well, we have a lot to talk about. I also see we have Legend Sir Sleepy in the YouTube comments. The show streams out to YouTube. You can search Citadel Dispatch there. It streams out to Nostr at citadeldispatch.com/stream, and it streams out to X under the 1031 account, 1031 funds.
Yeah, shout out to Sir Sleepy with like 80 to 90% of the energy in this live stream.
Yeah, we got. Well, they'll cycle in. We still don't have a calendar function on Nostr. The whole streaming situation, which I just jumped in with 2 feet like 2 years ago, has really been inching along. Like we need to have. I think it's a Bitcoin integrated freedom focused type Twitch experience is maybe not a low hanging fruit because it requires a lot of infrastructure and it's actually quite difficult to pull off, but could be a major use case for Nostr.
Yeah, well, on that note, nostrcal.com is a recent addition to the ecosystem. I can't necessarily endorse it. I haven't audited the code. I'm immediately skeptical because it's written with MK Stack, but I
was
tried it
vibe
out.
coded.
It looks pretty good so far. I think the vibe code was the bootstrap, and the guy's putting in some real effort. So
Yeah, so MK Stack is Gleason's project. Gleason is has been a guest on the show before, which makes it easy to vibe code Nostr projects. I mean, look, I think that's one piece. We really need like app integration, right? Like, so if you go live or you have a live show coming, the apps that people use should be notifying them ahead of time. So I don't have to send out just kind one post letting people know that the show is live. So it's a little bit more of a lift, I think. I mean, this is good. It's obviously just nice step improvement. But like in Primal, for instance, you'd have no idea we're live right now. And that's something we want to change in the near future. But it needs to be integrated. And some apps have led the way on that. I really like Nostr's integration, where it has like a nice live bar on the top, similar to what you'd expect on like an X or something, says that your friends are live. Fountain has a pretty good integration. And they're all using the same like open HLS spec. So even if you um, are streaming to Zapstream servers, it still shows up in the other apps or someone else's servers or something like that.
yeah,
So
that's
we're
cool.
slowly getting there.
Notifications are tricky. I worked on notifications for a couple weeks recently, and they're a lot harder to do 100% than it seems like. Uh, there's there's all kinds of different solutions. Like Pokey on Android is one of the best known ones, and they run. I think the way they work is they do it without a server, right? They run the Android app in the background, but Android and iOS both have these really restrictive uh, permissions that only allow you to have maybe like 10-minute latency notifications. So immediate notifications aren't reliable without a server. And then, of course, servers are cryptographically tied to a given app on both platforms. Not necessarily on web, but so you have to run a specific server for your specific app in order to get push notifications that way. And then, of course, because keys are in the custody of the user, your push server can't actually always get all the content that it needs to in order to notify the user. Like public broadcast social media is easy because it's all public. But I've been working on communities that have access controls enforced by the relay. And if I want push notifications from those, I have to find a way to like give the push server access to the relay, the community relay. And I can either do that. There's like three ways to do that. I'm just jumping straight in with both feet here.
I love it.
But it's an interesting problem. And it like presents a real problem for Nostr development in general because everything is decoupled, right? Because the server doesn't own the user's identity, it can't act on behalf of the user anymore. And so now we have to come up with all these like weird workarounds in order to use conventional like legacy architectures. So you can do it three ways. You can ask the relay, "Hey, could you like replicate all your data to my push server?" Or you could have the push server like get an invite code and ask the the relay for permission, so the relay itself actually has access, which is the one I'm using currently. But the problem with that is if you give the relay access, now anyone or the push server access, now anyone who goes through the push server can exfiltrate data that the push server has access to. So that's a problem. And then of course, like the obvious one is share your key with the push server, which is sort of insane. I like you wouldn't want to store your key on a server, even if like the server was there for signing stuff. You could share like a bunker URL, so you could revoke the access. But I think like that's probably the only way you can really do it is have the server act on behalf of the user, at least to do it in a robust way. But in order to do that, you need to be able to delegate bunkers so that they're locked down. But I made a pull request for that a while ago, and no one was interested. So Anyway, there's like our 2-minute sketch of
It's hard to do push notifications securely, particularly if you want, especially if you want privacy involved, because a lot of times it becomes the push server is the man in the middle, that sits in between. We have Soap Miner Zap 21,000 sats. Thank you, Soap Miner, for your ongoing support. Best soap in the business.
I use it.
My whole family loves it. I use it as well. It's great. Supposedly, he's gotten so much organic exposure that he's backlogged by 2 weeks right now. I saw a Nostr note about this yesterday.
Fantastic.
That's
Yeah,
exactly what we
I,
like to see.
you inspire me, Soap Miner. You almost make me want to hang up my Nostr dev hat and go like make soap or like carve wood or something like that.
I mean, it seems like so far, like that's the single best business model in Nostr. The random artisans we are graced with. And I also just thought it was funny that as we were having that conversation about security, we saw Sir Sleepy join the chat and said, I just raw dogged my NSEC into the Zapstream iOS test flight. Pray for me. I mean, on the notifications piece, I actually wasn't talking about push notifications. I'm a little bit of a weird beast. Like Citadel Dispatch would have way more listeners and way more viewers if I wasn't just constantly trying to kneecap myself um, for like principle reasons. And one of the things was like I told all my listener, like I had a huge following on X. I told all of them to delete their X. I told everyone to like stop using YouTube. I'm like the YouTube growth is basically completely stalled. I don't put I don't do the clickbait on YouTube for the YouTube algo. I don't do like the open face bullshit. I don't do ad monetization, so the algo hates me. And one of the things I've told people for years, and I continue by it, is don't enable push notifications. I think push notifications are a horrible, addictive thing. Um, and actually, I've been heavily involved in primal development, and it was one of the things we wrestled with for a while. Like we were very late to the push notification game, and we only ultimately did it because we had so many users asking for it. Like people just expect it and want it. But anyway, this was long winded. My point was, I actually think maybe some people might want push notifications. That will obviously get more people into the live streams. If they don't know it's about to be live, their phone vibrates, tells them we're live. Um, but at the minimum, like what we really need is like if you're already scrolling in the app, if you're already in the app, like it should be obvious that we're live right now. Like there should be a little badge around us saying we're live. Like on the top of your feed should say like Odell and Hodlbod are live, that kind of thing. And that's much easier to implement. You're already in the app. You're already connecting to relays and in Primal's case, the caching server.
Yeah, totally. I'm with you on the just kill all the engagement stuff. Like on my podcast, my co-host Jordan will say, like us on Apple Podcasts and stuff,
Yeah.
and I'll just follow up with like, don't like us on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, it's a weird back and forth. But on that note, by the way, Civil Dispatch is available in all favorite podcast apps. So feel free to subscribe. Take your friend's phone, click the subscribe button on your friend's phone. Maybe they'll get a dose of knowledge there. Share with them. The name of Hodlbod's podcast, because he's not going to shill it himself, is Thank God for Nostr. You can search in your favorite podcast app and press the subscribe button. But yeah, I hate that too. But that's one of the ones that like I mean, Peter got mad at me once I went on What Bitcoin Did, and I said the line to subscribe to Citadel Dispatch like 5 times. Because at least podcasting is like a little bit more. It's like open system. It's a little bit less predatory.
Yeah, podcast
But yeah,
RSS good.
I think it's funny that it is ironic with Nostr that it's being bootstrapped by people that tend to kind of hate social media. Um, I'm like, what's your opinion on? You know what I mean? It's uh, like people that think that social media is one of the main social media addiction specifically is like one of the main issues of our time. And meanwhile, we're trying to bootstrap a social protocol as an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I constantly am trying to figure out my opinion on that. I was trying to form a defense, an apologetic for just the internet in general. And I had a hard time doing that. I like the internet. I grew up on, like Monty Python fan forums and writing HTML and whatever. But, the internet, it's like, okay, well, it helps with communication and like people talking to each other and information and trade and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, but are all those unqualified goods? Not really. Like just because people are trading doesn't mean that the thing that accommodates that doesn't have negative externalities. And the internet has an insane number of negative externalities. And I'm a huge hypocrite because I'm a podcaster and a developer, and I write social media and spend way too much time on social media. But ideologically, it's hard to make an actual like watertight case for that stuff. And I think like the way I've made peace with it is the best thing we can do is I like to call it reforming technology. We're reforming social media. Social media is a drug addict who sleeps in the gutter, and we're like, hey, like buddy, maybe you could sleep inside tonight, or maybe not snort a bunch of cocaine. So like that doesn't make him a good person or a high functioning member of society, but it's better than just being completely down and out. So like at the very least, we can make social media not as predatory. And I think the only way forward to doing that is to align it with users, right? Right now it's aligned with platforms and B2B business models that are based on advertising and, modernity and consumer culture and like the slide from art to entertainment to addiction. And orienting it around users doesn't automatically fix that because people are also terrible in a lot of ways. But uh, at least they have souls. At least they have self-interest. Whereas like, big internet platforms don't. They don't have souls. I'm not like anti-capitalist. Pablo told me I was anti-capitalist this week, so now I have to be explicit
Well, I
about.
mean, we have too many comedies on Nostr. We need people should make money and be sustainable. You can just do it in an ethical way. It's just more difficult.
Yeah, and as a person
Um,
rather than as a machine.
I uh, I mean, I like to look at like we live in a digital world now, um, and we should be able to have a healthier experience with our digital tools. And there's not many people focused on that because of broken incentives. The incentives lead you down quite dystopian paths, and those are the paths of least resistance, and that's why we've gone down those paths. But there's a lot to explore to make it a healthier experience. I mean, and if I just want to go like objectively net, like where the internet has truly improved my life, most of my closest friends I've met through the internet. I mean, we wouldn't be friends. You wouldn't be on the show if it wasn't for the internet. Um, so we got that going for us. But yeah, there's a lot of negative externalities that exist.
Yeah, and it's I'm probably going to get skewered for appealing to the experts for this too, but like, there's so many people who've been thinking about these problems for 30 years. The original cypherpunks and we're over here on Nostr like inventing it all from scratch. There are some people who have like, a decade of background in Bitcoin. We got Rabble and Jack who've been thinking about this stuff for a long time. But I've been I want to go to a DWeb conference. Do you know DWeb Camp?
No.
Plugging it for a few years, but it's a bunch of leftists who go camping together and talk about decentralized technology, and it's just so interesting to me that it's these far left commies who have been talking about this problem for 20 years, and now all of a sudden, all of us like uh, I don't even know what to call us, but Bitcoiners are talking about it now, and I want to like build those bridges, but it's so hard to go into those spaces because they're first thing they're like, here's a code of conduct, we're gonna do a land use acknowledgement, and then we'll get started, and I feel like I've been emotionally abused already by the time anything starts.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's funny. Like a lot of that type of freedom tech, decentralized tech stuff has been dominated by politically left people. Um, And I mean, I saw recently, like we've had in Bitcoin, we've had like this whole like Knots versus Bitcoin Core debate, and like the Bitcoin Core devs are captured, and people are concerned about incentives. And then like went viral because of some influencers that, oh, now the Tor devs are also woke and captured. Uh, Look, I love the Tor project, but the Tor project predates any concerns about woke captured devs in Bitcoin. Like that has always been the case. There, you go into one of their video calls, it's like all blue-haired hippies. Um, I'm very grateful Tor exists, but that has just been the reality of the situation. Until Bitcoin happened, you didn't really have um, like more libertarian leaning kind of developer type of focus in a lot of these projects. Bitcoin has been more of the exception, and then Nostr kind of inherited that, particularly since the creator Fiat Jeff is an alleged far right uh, influencer. I mean, there was a fucking horrible article that doxed him and called him a far right influencer. I don't actually. I love Fiat Jeff. I think he's a great contribution to society. But it is an interesting dynamic. And I think what they miss is, as a result, a lot of these technologies aren't actually resistant to governments because they feel like governments can be benevolent. So they automatically have in their threat models a flaw. It's like a single vulnerability flaw in their threat models. Tor can, if the US government stops giving the blessing to Tor, Tor will not exist. It just won't. It was never set up to withstand the US government. What's cool about Bitcoin is that it can withstand governments. What can be cool with Nostr is for the same reason that it can be built to be robust in that type of situation. And that's when you actually have strong technical foundations that can stand the test of time without trusted third parties.
Yeah, I already mentioned the word reformation, but I also feel like we're in the midst of a renaissance of decentralized technology as well. You know, I read that book Crypto that was written in the early 2000s about the early cryptographers Diffie and Hellman and Shamir and Edelman and all those guys. Um, you know, asymmetric cryptography has been around for 50 years, and in the 90s, you had Phil Zimmerman like suing the U.S. government because of PGP, and he like ignored so many laws and regulations with PGP, just completely phoning it in as far as compliance goes. And then I feel like the mantle got taken up by the leftists for 20 years, and
Yeah.
no meaningful progress was made, other than a very small core of people who are working on Bitcoin. And now like with Nostr, we've recovered that ethic, even if we're not as smart as AD or Zimmerman or whoever. At least like we've recovered those values, which is
Yeah,
hard.
that's an interesting point because like the original cypherpunks were definitely not leftists.
Mhm.
It happened after that movement.
Well, I don't
Um,
know. There is a lot of like Berkeley in the early
Fair
uh
enough.
like cryptographers. Like they were all out of Berkeley. They were all hanging out with like the children of known communists and stuff. So uh I mean, I think there is something that aligns leftism with decentralization, at least in theory, because it's like the whole purpose of socialism is what they call justice. It's a distributive and participatory justice, where like everything's equitable and everyone's the same. And so like decentralization, even just distributed technology, like meshes well with that, but they don't recognize that government cannot actually guarantee equity. And if it does, you end up with like Soviet Russia. But they think about it more than people on the right. They think about it more than capitalists. So I think there's something to learn there, but it's hard to spit out the bones at the same time.
Well, one of the beauties of Dispatch is I do not plan these episodes at all. So I will tell you that 20 minutes in, I did not expect us to be at this point of the conversation.
I've been thinking
Um,
about this a lot. Like I read a great book recently called "Tools for Conviviality" by Ivan Illich, and I don't he's like a Christian. He's a South American Christian socialist. I don't even know what that means, but he does borrow some of these definitions of justice and applies them to contextualization of technology in ways that support human flourishing rather than degrade it. And I really like what he says. And then he's like, oh, and we also have to make sure that people can't ruin the environment through being using too much energy. Uh,
Oof.
and he's like, birth control, it's the ideal convivial tool. Uh, so like he completely loses me in certain places, but he's got some amazing insights.
Yeah, well, I mean, I will say that at this point, it's weird. And probably as part of the social media effect, and like the influencer effect, but it does feel like it's harder to interact with people that you disagree with on some things. It's like everyone wants to go in their echo chamber, but like I think one of the beauties of the human experience is like you can disagree with someone on certain things, agree with them on other things, debate the actual issues, and improve. But that has been lost in a lot of ways in modern society, which is a shame. I see Sir Sleepy zapped us 25,000 sats. Highest zap of the day. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. He said he zapped from Cash App and it worked, and he seemed surprised. But that's the cool part about open protocols. Um, I don't know where to go from. So let's just pull it back for a second. Nostr, you've been building on Nostr for a while. It feels like every other day now I see doom and gloom posts about not the state of Nostr adoption. How do you feel about, like, are we spinning our wheels? Is Nostr dead? Is it over? Should people still focus on it?
Yeah, Nostra's dead. I think it's over. Time to pack it up. No, I think there's like, uh, well, I always go back to the thing that I said when I got into this space 3.5 years ago, like before I really got on board with Nostr, which is like solving social media is a 10-year problem with a 0% chance of success. And I think our odds have only improved. I think Nostr is it's a particular kind of community. Social media is really weird because it's intended to be a static technological system that is an environment for any kind of community. And that's not a coherent idea because people are complex and technology is static. And that's why everyone's frustrated with technology. Uh, and like we're using AI to just push people off more instead of actually solve their problems in a lot of cases. It's super annoying. And Nostr, if it's just a forum for Bitcoiners, and that's all it ever is, like that's fine. Maybe it's not worth all the millions of dollars that have been poured into grants and stuff like that. But it used to be. I read this book called Design for Community. I read a lot because I have a lot of questions. You keep snickering at how much I read, but
No, I'm also reading the live chat. It's
oh,
not just you.
okay.
I love reading. People should read. Read,
Absolutely.
freaks.
Read weird stuff too. But it was written in 2006, and it was by a guy who designs web forums for a living. And he was like, "Here's all the ways that you can design your forum so that it, benefits people." And that was right before social media completely flattened the entire world. And it was just interesting to me to see a guy putting so much effort into building bespoke software for communities. It was like there are these certain affordances and this certain aesthetic and stuff that meshes with the purpose of the community and the kind of people who are in it. And then Facebook and its giant blue steamroller just show up and flatten 3.5 billion people into
I
a
think it's
single little box.
more than that. Yeah.
It's crazy. And like Nostr is an awesome solution to that because like right now it's kind of monoculture in a lot of ways. And so it's like it's okay. We can build the we can build the protocol that works for us as Bitcoiners. Our values are reflected in the technology that gets created. But at the same time, because it's a protocol, you can have different clients with different affordances and aesthetics and everything that fit different people in different communities. So like when people come in from a different community, like the Japanese developers are a good example. They have different
Yep.
idioms, all the air reply stuff. It's like you don't need reply trees or thread building if you're in Japan and using Nostr. So the more of these like bespoke use cases come in, and this is like another thing that I'm not sure about. I'm building like community software, but I don't think a single software platform can be customized to fit every community, and I think that's part of the mistake. Anyway, yeah, Nostr is it's great, small, and it's also the only protocol that I'm aware of that actually uh, solves the decoupling of identity and storage, right? Like all these other protocols either own your identity or they have like permission storage. Like PubKey, it gets the closest, right? Because it's got cryptographic identity, but then none of the data is signed. So your home server can just drop you whenever. So like close.
And are you relying on your home server for the social graph too?
I yeah, I mean definitely to store it. I think the social graph is built based on the keys. So if you like keep a backup of your home server, then you can restore it. But the data is authenticated based on the server's authority, which is derived from the key on the DHT pointing to the home server, right? And so you have this kind of like you have this provenance of authority that has to be traced, and that's how legacy systems work. Is like you don't know something's real unless the guy who gave it to you told you it's real.
Yeah, if you use Facebook, like it's Zuckerberg telling you that it's real. He's doing the verification, and you're just trusting him.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, I think the way I like to say it that is probably terrible because no one ever understands what I mean is, but Nostr aligns the network topology with the social topology with the social graph. So it creates this like neutral layer of relays that are run by people, with interests and policies and stuff, and then a different social graph sits on top of that. And so it's really conducive to the Uncle Jim model because Uncle Jim is based on organic connections between people, not on some systematic, uh, you know, uh, binary tree of perfect distribution of computational resources. Like computational resources are aligned to fit people. And like the place that I learned this concept is a friend of mine used to work at Twitter, and he told me how like all the caching stuff works over there. If a regular person tweets, it just like it goes to the inboxes of the 3 people that follow them. And so it's only copied maybe twice. But if someone super famous tweets, it goes to an outbox, just one outbox. There's one copy, and the outbox is like 6 machines that are super beefy and just do nothing but serve that person's content. And so you've got this self-healing system of caching nodes that rearranges itself based on how many people are following who and how many times that person tweets in a given amount of time. And it's all centrally controlled and orchestrated, but I think we can get the same kind of thing with the Nostr architecture. We just need to figure out the right kinds of like incentives and affordances to help the network to self-organize in that way.
I have a quick question for you. Are you a ride or die freak? Like, are you a longtime listener of Civil Dispatch and RHR?
Yeah, you guys are the reason that I'm in Nostr at all.
I love it. Well, I got that going for me at least. I'm the creator of the Uncle Jim term.
Oh, you are? Nice. Congratulations.
That's why I asked.
Your
just a
Wikipedia
random
article is going to be very long. Just a whole bunch of little like phrases and
I was literally just drunk on Rabbit Hole Recap, and I was like trying to explain the concept of like running a node for friends and family. And at that point, like it was pre-lightning. It was supposed to be a self-custody. You're not holding custody of someone's funds. You're just like running an Electrum server for them. And I was sitting there drunk, and I didn't want to dox an uncle, so I don't have an uncle named Jim. And it was like the first name I could come up with that wasn't that wasn't doxing one of my real uncles. And then all of a sudden, like it's just entered the vernacular. It's crazy. Like I read an article about the Uncle Jim model the other day. Just memes just spread like wildfire. Kind of crazy.
It's it's perfect. It's a provocative metaphor. It's concrete. Yeah, man. I think you're very good at that. Stay humble, stack that.
Thank you, sir.
A dozen things that you say repeatedly. It's
I went on. There are about a dozen. I went on Maller's show, which has like all newcomers. He's like fucking huge on the newcomer top of funnel Bitcoiner train. And I said stay humble, stack sats, and like the live chat was just like, this guy just just repeats influencer takes. He doesn't have any original takes or whatever. And I was like, that's kind of cool. Like I'm down to just fade into the background. Let the myth be bigger. Okay. Anyway, I got completely sidetracked there on Uncle Jim, but we were talking about something important there. Yeah, to me, like Nostr as a protocol is incredibly, incredibly unique. And I haven't seen anything else like it. I don't think it competes with Blue Sky. I don't think Blue Sky offers a reasonable alternative for it. I don't think it solves the core of the problem. I do think it's hard for people to wrap their head around the lack of like guaranteed data availability, even though in practice, um, you can have like JB55 wake up one morning and just press delete on his relay and pretty much nothing of value was lost. And I think people struggle with that aspect a lot. But to me, that's more of a feature than a bug. That it's just simple. It kind of just relies on like basic kind of incentive structures that people will save things that they deem important. And it should be interesting, I think. I think there's been a lot of focus on censorship resistance, which, by the way, is another thing. Like, we don't have guaranteed data availability, and we also don't have guaranteed censorship resistance. But I think in practice, like, if Kanye comes onto Nostr and says a bunch of anti-Semitic shit, like, every one of those notes will be saved by like thousands of people because it's fucking Kanye saying like provocative shit. But there's no way to prove that. Like, you can't like mathematically prove that will happen. But anyway, there's a lot of focus on censorship resistance, but I think that actual aspect of verifiability, right? Like as we start to see more AI stuff, as we see more deep fake stuff, like a Trump Truth Social post can completely change the world. There can be real ramifications there. And there's no way for us to verify if he actually sent it or not, which is just insane when you start to think about it.
Which happened, right, with like crypto reserve kind of stuff. Like some like Ripple staffer was tweeting for him, right?
Yeah, I believe. And then I think he got just like he's now on Trump's shit list. The bigger one was during the ETF stuff. Gary Gensler's Twitter account or the SEC's Twitter account got hacked. And the market moved like 15-20% on news of the ETFs being approved, and it wasn't a real tweet. Or it was. I came out of his account. Nostr doesn't necessarily fix that yet because you could get your NSEC compromised. But presumably, like if Elon wanted to troll the world, he could literally just post a tweet from the Prime Minister of India's account. Like he could just post a tweet from Modi's account. No one would fucking know. Kind of crazy.
That hasn't happened, but you'd be burning so much reputation.
Well, we can't. It depends what the tweet is. We can't verify that it happened either. Like he could easily say, and I'm not saying that he would do this, but I am using Elon as an example because it's a private company and I'm almost positive that it's run like a small business. Like there's probably not that many like user access control systems. Like there's probably a few people that have a lot of control there. But like they could easily just say like, oh, like you got hacked. Like there's no way we can verify. Like after the fact, you're just trusting them when they say like, oh, that wasn't the case. Like how do we know the SEC account actually got hacked?
Yeah, and you
It
see
could have just been them.
Like with activists,
Yeah.
It's not the same thing because it's not an insider, but they disappear. Someone takes over their account and starts phishing other activists. It's pretty gross.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of implications there about lack of verifiability, and it's crazy how much of the world relies on these just flawed platforms that are just not prepared really for a world that moves so fast, that is so reliant on digital comms and digital identity. And then on the opposite side, like I also think it's hilarious that like you said, millions of dollars of grant money has gone into Nostr. Like really, there hasn't been that much money that has gone into Nostr. I'm grateful for the money that has come in, specifically through OpenSats, because I spend so much time and dedicate so much of my time for OpenSats in a charitable way as a volunteer. But if you look at the grand scheme of things, it's just a drop in the bucket. And on the VC side, it's fucking hilarious. Like people, I mean, people say, "Oh, like the VCs are co-opting Nostr." Like there is no money. There's very little money going into Nostr. And then you compare it to something like the DIDS project, right? Where they're like spending years and years and like hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't know how much money like Microsoft and Block and all those guys spent on DIDs. And where are we? They're just non-existent. We just ship it live on Oster. Like it
Yeah.
really does put it all into
Uh,
perspective.
why is it, the rest of the world just assiduously avoids talking about Nostr? Is it political, or because they think we're technically dumb, or like because we don't have any money, or what is it? Because yeah, like money does not correlate with impact for sure.
I think part of it is that we're a little bit irrelevant still. We don't have marketing budgets. I will say that I know for a fact on X, you get shadow banned and deranked if you post about Nostr. Um, it's like you see it right away if you put the words Nostr or links to known Nostr websites on there. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there's a lot of focus on Elon specifically for me because I loved Twitter and that was my platform. And Twitter had a lot of issues before Elon took it over too. But it was the only social media I used. But really, the big enemy is Zuck. The only thing stopping his user base from growing is more kids getting born. He's like basically like hit the population cap, um, and they're definitely doing like shady things about external linking and stuff like that. There's very little doubt in my mind. I mean, I don't have exact proof on that, but that's probably part of it. And then there's this other thing that it's like anyone on Monster who's like not. I mean, I'm not going to say anyone, but like there is a lot of pushback on Nostr about bringing in more. It's like there's a lot of infighting about how you bring in new users, which is interesting. And I think it goes back to the point I made earlier with it's being bootstrapped by people that think social media addiction is a problem. And they're like battling, there's like internal battles within themselves, not even just like among the community, like within themselves about the right way of doing things or like where the line should be drawn. um I mean, like we've brought on Primal, like specifically, we've tried to focus on bringing in new users and get more exposure and make the onboarding experience, less frictionful and easier to use. And then like you bring on like a big account or whatever, and then there's like a bunch of people in the comments like, "Oh, Primal's not a real Nostr app." It's like, "Oh, that's great." Like that's the first thing they need to see is like just get confused about what is a real Nostr app. And then yeah, then I mean that's just I think more of a philosophical question than anything about what is a real Nostr app. So it's interesting. I do think it'll probably get better over time um, in terms of external exposure, but it's going to be more of a hand to hand kind of. I guess the way networks always expanded in the past before we had like major socials, which is like friends telling friends and onboarding them kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like, speaking for myself, there's definitely a lot of self-sabotage,
Yeah.
whatever source there it is. But if you get successful, now all of a sudden you're very responsible, right? Like you become a target for media attacks. You
Yep.
have to like comply with stuff, or do reports, or actually read terms of services for app stores or whatever. And that stuff is not very fun. And like I've been trying to do a bunch of usability testing, but I just keep finding excuses to not do it. I already know the problems. I gotta fix the problems first, and you end up at it's the developer first mindset, right? Like developers like
Yep.
to program, they like to build stuff, and so they just do. And if you don't have any like product people or designers in the room to hold them accountable, then they're just gonna like play with stuff forever. And I think like that's still okay. Like for a long time, Nostr it was great that there was all the experimentation. It's still great that there's a lot of experimentation, but I think I'm seeing a shift towards actual products. And I think it's probably like MK Stack makes it easy to just like poop something out. So there's more stuff that's covering use cases that people are scratching their own itch. So I think that's like a sign of maturity. But you know, and
Wait,
there are more.
why don't you say what you mean there? What is your opinion on vibe coding and
I
people
wrote
just
a
pooping out products?
I wrote a blog post a while ago called "AI is anti-human," um,
Interesting.
and like I still I use it sometimes, but like wholesale, like oh man, there's so many weird things to say about it. But wholesale, like throwing things together, it's legacy code generation. Like I love vibe coding for building marketing sites. I did that earlier today. I was like, build me a marketing site, and it just like it pooped it out, and that's what it was. But I'm gonna publish it because I didn't have to build a marketing site.
Right.
So like that's great, and to the extent that that is enough, that's fine. And like Gleason really raises the ceiling on what vibe coding is able to do in the Nostr ecosystem by giving it some tools that are decent. But you know, like I did some experiments where I wrote the same app twice in one day. Um, it took me 4 hours to write it with MK Stack, and it didn't work at all. And then it took me 3 hours to write it by hand, and it worked well. This is landlubber.coracle.social. It's a NIP29 like relay management kind of client. Um, and you know, that's I'm an experienced developer, so what I do think AI is good for is for people who are not like spending all their time working on a single piece of software. If you've got like a Saturday morning and you want to see something done and you don't know any programming languages, like throw something together, vibe it, and if it works for you, that's great. Don't expect to turn it into a project or a product. I know some
Well,
people are, and like I'm impressed by what Derek has done specifically. He's been doing some good stuff and sticking to it. But putting code out there, it becomes a job. There's like responsibility attached to it.
well, I think that, I mean, so the way I look at it, at least from like the Nostr Bitcoin side, and we'll see. I mean, it's still early. I don't pretend like I can comprehend all the ramifications of where we're going next. But on one piece, like I think it could be very valuable for iterating fast and experimenting with things. But then if you find something that actually has some fit that actually people are in demand of and want to use, at that point, like you have to sit down and get professional with it and make a stable app. And one of the things I think that Nostr specifically is missing a lot is stability, is reliability, is robustness on the app side. That's what people expect. Like if people come in and things are breaking and things, they'll just walk away. They just leave. And one of the things that's really frustrating is, and we saw this with the early Bitcoin community, is if you onboard them too early and then they leave, I think it's way harder to get them back than if they've never touched it in the first place. It's like almost like people are relatively open to trying that first touch experience, but when the first touch is bad, that second touch is way harder to get than the first touch, which is a crazy phenomenon. And that part worries me a bit with having unstable apps out there, non-reliable apps, too complicated types of things for new users. And then the second piece is I think there might be something there about and to the first piece, I think an interesting recent case study is BitChat by Dorsey. Is like so he vibed that in like 2 days. He said a weekend. It could have been like a billionaire weekend, like 4 days. I don't know, but he said a weekend. And then he put it out there, and then there was like this. There was people loved it. People got very excited about it, and then Callie jumped on board, and now there's like a bunch of different contributors to that project that are focused on making it like stable and fleshing it out and like actual like a proper project. So I think that's a perfect example of the first piece, like iterating quick, seeing what sticks. And then the second piece, which is a little bit more out there, but could be kind of interesting, is maybe it changes how like the crazy tech bro thing that you hear all the time is like it's the end of the app. Like we're only going to use agents. Like your app stores are just walking zombies. They're never going to exist anymore. People are going to go into their agent and they're going to tell them what they want at any given time. And if they need an app-like interface, the agent will make it for them on the fly. And I'm not sold on whether or not that's going to be the case. It's way more likely it'll be the case for something like booking flights. Like I need to go to Paris and then I want to connect through Zurich or whatever, and you just tell it and it fucking books your flights for you. Than for like full-on social experiences or group chats and stuff like that. But if it is going to be the case, open protocols really supercharge it. Like the fact that you don't need Nostr API permission, that you don't need Bitcoin API permission, allows you to kind of enter that world in a way that the closed systems would just never allow. And getting X API access is not only frictionful but expensive, or Stripe access or something like that. But you don't need that with Bitcoin and Nostr, so that could be interesting.
Yeah, and I think I talked to Future Paul about this, but that's one of the exciting things about AI is it makes development more accessible to more people. Like if you go to a small business and be like, what process is taking you like 10 hours a week and wasting your time and money? And if you could vibe code something to just like fix it for that one person and not productize it, that opens up an entirely new category of software. That's making professional development cheaper, but regular people can also go and they can book their flight, or they can take an existing piece of software and be like, I really wish this button was over here, and they can just make that happen. And like no one else has to use that to be valuable because they spent 12 cents on it. I think that is fantastic. And like, I want to be clear too, that I'm not belittling any of the really smart people who are working on this and excited about it on Nostr, but I'm kind of a curmudgeon. So I just try to like, take the hype down as much as possible whenever I can. So I just see that as that's kind of like my job, my role that I've self-assigned is to, well, okay. So like, in 2012, I worked, or 13, I worked at a 3D printing company, and everyone was like, 3D printing is the future. We're going to throw away all our CNCs.
Factories are dead. Everyone's
Yeah.
going to produce things at home.
Everyone's like generating these ultra light organic lattice structures. And yeah, like some of that exists. My local mechanics shop has 2 3D printers and they just use it to, to build little like manifolds and stuff and stick pieces of exhaust together. It's fantastic, but it did not completely replace manufacturing. It only revolutionized it. So I think AI is the same thing. It's only going to revolutionize development. It's not going to replace development. And I don't think we're all going to be, AI jockeys either. I think it's a lot more nuanced and no one understands exactly what it's going to look like.
I mean, it's still very early. We got a zap from silent.link, zapped 42,000 sats. Great service. I use and depend on it. If we were on stream during the global Starlink outage yesterday, I would have had to switch to my silent.link hotspot. It's my only backup internet. So on the Nostr side of that, I'm kind of interested. It's tangentially related to vibe coding in that there's a couple different visions for Nostr, or maybe they're all the same vision, but I question the order of operations. Your 2 main projects, Coracle and Flotilla, are like these bigger projects that are like focused on their specific use cases. Coracle on like a more social use case, Flotilla on like a more group chat, just Discord-like experience. The dream of Nostr that people have had since the beginning or since very early on has been this idea of like micro apps and other stuff and all this, other things you can do, right? Like Airbnb on Nostr or whatever. Maybe that's not micro enough. Like Flappy Nostrich, like games where you can just sign in. And do you think adoption happens in the bootstrap phase? Do you think that happens from micro apps, or do you think that happens from some of these bigger apps that are like more like these heavier apps that are more focused on some kind of holistic experience?
Well, I talked to a time traveler the other day, so I can definitely tell you with certainty. No, I have no idea. It's there's a lot of things about Nostr that are like huge gambles. It's like, well, this seems like it should work, but no one's tried it, so I guess we'll give it a shot and see what happens. But I tend to be more on the side of like a single really high quality user experience is going to be the on ramp for the majority of people. I mean, you already see this with Primal, right? Like it's not I don't know. Zap that stream is like that's actually pretty good, but it's also a long project and it's been maintained and everything. But to get people in the door, there has to be like a value proposition that they can understand. And most of Nostr is not like it's a solution looking for a problem. And all of us know what the problem is, but most people aren't really like uh, up on decentralization and the problems with the internet enough to be looking for a particular solution. Whenever I tell my friends I'm thinking about this stuff, they're like, "Well, I'm sure glad someone is." That's about the sum total that I get with my regular non-techie friends. Um, and yeah, so I think like I like in a lot of ways what Will is doing with NostrDB and NoteDeck and stuff. And I mean, if that can come together in just a super performant, customizable, polished, multi-platform tool, that will be super cool because it'll be the tweet deck that everyone misses, plus a whole bunch more. Like it hasn't really materialized yet. But yeah, I think like branding and marketing and design are all big parts of this process. And then the the micro apps solidify the network effect, right? The network effect is normally what is it like? Uh, n minus one. I can't remember, but it's like the number of relationships between the people in the ecosystem. But if the ecosystem includes apps, then you get to multiply that by how many different apps a given person uses, and
Right.
that's a much deeper moat than even big tech companies can build.
Yeah, because I mean, none of them would do that after the fact because they like their walled gardens. So the fact that we're starting from that point means that if any single app gets very successful, they're still part of the greater open Nostr ecosystem. It's not like a decision that is made after success, which I think is a key point there. Um, yeah, I mean, I do think about like I don't think people are going to come for censorship resistance, um, unless censorship gets way worse again. I mean, it was pretty bad for a while. It's still pretty bad in lots of parts of the world. But as long as it's like a frog boiling situation, people tend to not. And what was the phenomenon we saw? It's like a rich person gets deplatformed and then they create their own social network,
Yeah, yeah.
or they buy one. Which we've seen. We see Trump with True Social. I mean, I think Kanye bought Parler at one point.
That's true.
Elon obviously bought X. So they either like buy one or create one, and then they don't solve the problem. They're just the new god instead of someone else. And I'm even seeing True Social for a while was not paywall block and was not login block, but now they're starting to login block because they know everyone needs to read Trump's posts. So if you force them to log in, then they might actually sign up for the platform.
Trump has the best business models: mint your own cryptocurrency,
Yeah.
create your own paywalled social network.
Stakes.
Yeah.
Don't forget about Trump stakes. I So I don't think they're going to come for censorship resistance. Maybe at some point they come for verifiability, but probably not. I think most people are cool with Zuckerberg telling them when something's AI generated or fake or whatever. Like those centralized platforms will just have to have better UX in terms of they will have to make that part of their product offering. It's like, oh, this is fake news and this isn't. And that's not an easy problem to solve, but they will attempt to and they'll probably do decent about it. I think the way like we get, 100 million people using Nostr, 200 million is like the app has to be better experience. Like it just has to be and easier said than done. Like I don't know what necessarily means a better experience, and that also was one of the issues when you like a lot of the builders, like I said, are um, in social media denial, or I don't know what we are, but like they want to use less social media, not more. But it just needs to be a better app. Like good content, good videos. Everything needs to be really reliable. It just needs to work really well. And then people get all the other benefits as a side effect. And a lot of times they don't even realize until afterwards. And I don't think a micro app can necessarily do that. But maybe they could, and then maybe the question is like, what is the definition of a micro app? Maybe actually the first big app isn't a social app, but not a micro app, like Polymarket or something, but on Oster.
I don't know what the thing would be, but I overheard like a college student the other day talking about how they had grayscaled their phone and like turned off images and all this stuff. I think there's a lot of appetite for social media that respects users.
Do you
Uh,
grayscale your phone?
I don't. I'm just immune to.
My phone auto grayscales at sunset.
That's a good idea. Uh,
It's pretty cool.
I have like an alarm set to put my phone down in the evening. But yeah, it does like suck up your life, and people are smart. People recognize that, and they want better. So social media that leans into that, uh, but someone has to own the narrative. Like the entire ecosystem of Nostr. I mean, someone could maybe co-opt it. Like Nostr.com is getting better, um,
It was pretty
but
bad
no
for
one
a
can
while.
really own the Nostr narrative. You have to have your own brand, and you have to shill that as its own thing, because no one, like you're saying, no one cares about the protocol. Protocols are not a selling point. So
I mean, I'll say like, um, I have noticed that issue as well. Um, because if you shill Nostr to someone, you're just throwing them to the wolves. There's like the chances that they actually get to an app when you just say you should try out Nostr is like 5%. Um, so I personally have been I'll just say like, oh, you should download Primal and check out Primal. And yes, do I have a financial interest in Primal as an investor? Yes, I do. But I also just think it's right now like the cleanest onboarding experience for a new user. And if there was one that beats Primal at that, like I will show that app instead. But as soon as you do that, like people are like, "Oh, he's playing favorites, he's doing this, he's doing that," and it's like it's a whole quagmire, and it's something to do with open protocols. I mean, I see the same thing on the Bitcoin side, right? It's like I guess it's a little bit better now because there's so much Bitcoin education out there. If you say you should check out Bitcoin, they could probably figure out their way. But it's way more helpful to tell someone, download this app, use this tool, set it up this way, and just kind of guide them, at least in the beginning. And then ultimately, then they can go and use it however they want in the future after that.
yeah, I have a responsible disclosure to make too. It's that I am not paid to promote Primal at all. But Milian is my friend, so take that as you will. No, but I think like
The friend thing, you joke, but the friend thing is actually, at least for me, and that's definitely not true for a lot of people. Like a lot of people, like you give them like $50 and a brownie, and they'll shill your product. But for me, the friend issue is a way bigger issue about talking about these kind of things publicly, because it just sucks talking specifically negatively about friends on air.
I don't mind doing it. I've
Fair
talked
enough.
Primal plenty of times, and Milian has forgiven me. That's why we're able to be friends.
There
He's a
you go.
guy, man. But yeah, I think like uh, it, the problem, like social media itself as a selling point, is kind of a bizarre thing because everyone
Yeah.
hates it, and I kind of wonder like, are we a bunch of millennials making social media for millennials in the millennial era? Uh, you know, younger kids, they have different platforms. First of all, like that I've never used. I've like used TikTok once and got disgusted and threw my phone across the room. Um, but uh, but younger people also like have grown up in this ecosystem, and they're either like very highly captured by it and addicted to it, or they've already opted out. And it's like the AI thing. We can't really anticipate what is coming next. We just keep like building these things based on conventions that we already have seen, but it takes an insane amount of creativity and like understanding of actual people in order to create a product that is compelling not only to differentiate from a market that exists, but also to appeal to a new kind of person. Like the market that is opening up is huge and completely unpredictable. So, and I like, again, I'm a hypocrite. I do a terrible job of this, but we should just like spend a lot of time with people, understanding what their problems are, and understanding what their like philosophy on digital media is, because it is certainly not. I wish I had Twitter back.
Yeah. Well, I got a few things here. First of all, have you seen this base app by Coinbase?
I've heard tell. I haven't looked at it.
So it's like Web3, quote unquote, competitor to Nostr, like decentralized social.
And there's one
Uh,
run by Coinbase.
yeah, it's run by Coinbase. It's got shitcoin trading built in. It's got social games built in, which I think, if Nostr is going to be successful, has to be a key piece. Is more social game type. I think they're viral. People like games. Games are fun. Um, It's got social games. It's got shitcoin trading. Yeah, I said shitcoin trading, shitcoin wallet. It has Zaps, but they use USDC. But anyway, you were mentioning earlier, you're like, oh, did we waste all this money on Nostr? It came out 45 minutes ago, or it looks like an hour and 10 minutes ago. Uh, Base App just sent out its first round of weekly rewards. They sent out $28 million worth of USDC to 2,800 creators. Each got $10,000 worth of USDC. So that's what we're up against. Just a lot of money sloshing around. I mean, that's more money that's ever been spent on any kind of Nostr development by far. Just sent out as zaps to just get people in.
That's crazy.
It's just fucking insane. On the TikTok thing, yeah. Also, never used TikTok. Only time I've seen TikToks that get cross posted. But I don't know. Like, are we just so old now too? Like, is TikTok old news? Like, there's probably all these apps that are becoming viral that we don't even know about that the kids are using these days.
Yeah, I think so. My kids don't have phones, so they can't
That's
tell me.
this is what I'm talking about though. Like my kid, I do no screen time. Like my kid's younger than yours, but he's not going to get phones. I'm going to try and push him away from social media as much as possible. Like part of the reason I deleted my Twitter account was because like how was I supposed to like tell him not to use this shit if I was like a celebrity on X? And I didn't know if I'd have the self-control to do it if like I went to like 500,000 followers or 600,000 followers or something. So I'm a big deleter of things and just pulled the fucking plug. But it's like, how are we trying to bootstrap this thing when you won't even let your kids have a phone? Like it's just such a weird dichotomy.
Yeah. Well, it's like I think social media had a different marketing scheme early on that is completely different from what we have now. Like we are such an entertainment economy. The games thing you mentioned is crazy too, because like you go on Netflix on a Friday night, you're like, I want to watch a movie, and it's like, hey, do you want to like watch a playable? I'm like, I don't know what that is, man.
What is a playable?
It's a game. Like Netflix has games now. It
Interesting.
just doesn't even make any sense to me. But like you think about MySpace or those old ones, just like forums. Really, forums and bulletin boards and stuff were a really early kind of social network, and like the internet was the original Nostr. You could create your own space and talk about a particular thing, or access control it and have authentication and stuff like that. I think that's what Nostr is able to deliver in a way that's more user centric, and people have to have the appetite to have that. Like, I definitely would like to just hang out on a forum with my 6 friends who like Monty Python, but and I think like a lot of people
But
do.
isn't that just a group chat?
Well, yeah, exactly. Like people are going to the cozy web, right?
Yeah.
These private servers and group chats and stuff like that, and that's because they know the people there, and they don't have to like there's no global uh, the idea that you have to be able to interface with everyone in the whole world at the drop of a hat for any reason is like it's at best an illusion. you have to interface with 1,000 people in the world at the drop of a hat. And yeah, like connections come up, but they come up organically because you're talking about the same thing or in the same location or whatever. And the
Or
scaling,
you have like a friend in common.
yeah, exactly. Like the scaling of social media is an illusion. Social doesn't scale. Dunbar's number is like a real thing. And so working within those constraints seems, well, it seems not only healthy but valuable, right? Like the value that is created on social networks at scale, where there's only fake engagement, is all captured by the platforms. And so,
Right.
you know, what's the point of driving engagement or monetizing or whatever, if all it is just the extension of the crypto casino, like what Base has? I don't know. Yeah, I'm opting out of social media and skeptical of it, but I think that's what I need, and that's what a lot of people say they need. So why not give people what they need? You know?
I mean, so on that note, I mean, first of all, like maybe we should all create base accounts and get $10,000 and then zap it around. I wonder, you probably have to do KYC for the USDC. Like they're not just sending $10,000 in USDC to people without a Coinbase account. I don't know. Anyway, I mean, on that note, two things. First of all, God, I'm getting a call. Social games I think are really interesting, and I just wanted to pinpoint on that. Um, I think I think they can scale in a healthier way than like a global feed. Um, like you can have a billion people using the same social game with the same leaderboard, and it doesn't have a lot of the same negative externalities that maybe a Twitter style app does. Um, and Nostr could be very interesting there because you could have multiple games from different people. They could all use the same social graph type of leaderboard situation, and they don't have to all work together. I think the biggest problem there is the incentive for gaming in general has been walled gardens historically. And recently with the mobile games all suck. They're just fucking horrible. They're like super predatory ad bullshit. My dad is a sucker for, that's the other thing. Marty thinks like it's like kids these days. Like my dad's quite old. Like he's addicted to Words with Friends on his iPad, and like he'll just buy whatever, like all the slop that comes out of China. Like he just like he's a sucker. He just clicks all the fucking ads. Like a lot of them, like the older generation, have even more unhealthy situation with technology. I mean, it's like you got to like get him away from the iPad. He's like completely addicted to it.
Yeah, which is why
Um,
I'm like so sanguine about young people. Like old people are so, they don't have the immune system
yeah,
for digital technology. Like young people, they're pretty prepared to like grapple with it.
it's like when the conquistadors came over and got everyone sick.
Yeah.
It's like that. There's no immune system. Um, that's actually a really good metaphor. I but then to the group chat thing, I mean, this is something you've been very focused on since the very beginning. I remember one of the first times we met, you said my goal is to get my church group off of Facebook. Um, which is actually something that I've been thinking about a lot recently because my wife and I haven't had Facebook for over a decade. But we want to homeschool our kids, and all the homeschool groups are on Facebook.
Yep.
And I do a lot of things for my children that are worse than joining Facebook. Like if we have to do that, then we're gonna have to fucking do that, I think. But hopefully we don't. And I think Nostr can be a key aspect here. And I mean, so Flotilla specifically, I think birthed out of this concept. How do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, my goal has always been to help my church community out. I completely did not understand the problem, and I keep learning new things, which is why I haven't actually onboarded anyone. You know, I started with like replacing Twitter, but turns out that's not actually that good for community. Uh, so the chat app, kind of like Slack sort of thing, I did that because there's a precedent for it. Like my community has a Slack channel that they would like to use, and what I'm learning now is like, what what are people's need for privacy and security, right? And then also, what is their perceived need for it? Like, if you can say something is encrypted, people are all over it. Um, but if you're just saying it, but if you say self-hosted, like people A don't know what that means, and B don't really want to bother with it.
Yeah.
And so like Flotilla leaned into the relays as groups kind of thing. And I think it's a still really like promising architecture for a lot of different kinds of groups. If you have the right like trust and security trade-offs, especially for ones that are like read only or like public read or something like that. But
So
you know,
that's
yeah,
like Uncle Jim on steroids, right? It's like one church member is running a relay that only, and does it authenticate? Like it's only a whitelisted group of users can access that relay?
yeah, exactly. So you got one technical guy, or even a service that could be okay as well.
Like voltage, it could be like voltage or whatever. It's just like a
Yeah,
couple clicks, host on AWS.
yeah, and at least your data is not getting sucked in by a giant machine that has standardized it and knows how to deal with it. So I think that's promising, but I am glad that Jeff took the bullet for the rest of us and started working on white noise, because um, that that like adopting MLS and having a really robust, scalable, encrypted group solution is not something that can happen overnight. Like MLS has been going since like what 2017 or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty old project, and adapting it to Nostr is not trivial. And he's just doing it. Like I'm really glad that he did that. He invited me to work on it like a year ago, and I was like, no, I have a different approach I want to try. And so we went our separate ways. But I think MLS is really promising for certain group types. But trust in a digital setting is like, it's so fraught, because anyone can exfiltrate data, especially if it's signed, but even if it's not. And there's all these like affordances that are not natural to human experience. So like the other day, I couldn't log into Strava. I was going to go for a run. At the same time, I lost my earbuds. And I value my earbuds way more than I value logging into Strava. But the Strava problem was way more frustrating, because I had no recourse. There was nothing I could do about it. It was just like, it doesn't work, and there's no good alternative. Whereas
Wait, you lost the device? Is that the phone tracking you, or is it like a wrist device or something? Or
it's an app on my phone.
you know the Strava leak, right?
Yeah, it's
When they
a
like found
terrible platform.
all the secret military bases or whatever, because like they were just running circles around
Yeah, it's
all the
fantastic.
running data was public.
And I guess Fitbit started posting people's sexual activity to Facebook. Uh,
Oof. I mean, it's a good case study on like what not to do on Nostr.
Yeah, but I lost my earbuds at the same time, and that was not frustrating at all, because I was like, I can just buy new earbuds, or
Right.
like maybe I'll find them. Like I know they're physically in my house somewhere, so they'll appear. Like physical affordances are so much more hospitable to humans than digital ones, and
Interesting.
you see this with like Hexa inviting the journalist to his bomb the Houthis chat group. Um,
Right.
it's not just old people. Like no one is really well adapted to digital media. There's always going to be some amount of
Wait, what's the takeaway from him accidentally inviting the wrong person to his group chat?
well, he didn't understand. Like he didn't go to the guy's house and knock on the door and be like, "Hey, do you want to come to my like?"
Well, he
secret
like invited the
uh,
wrong Steve. Like it was kind of
yeah,
a UX failure, right?
exactly. Like UX is always going to be there, and even a perfect UX is going to be misunderstood and misused a lot of the time. And like, yeah, it's true in the physical world. You do the wrong thing sometimes, but we have an intuition for the physical world that
If you invite the wrong person into a room to have a meeting, like you see the wrong person, and
right.
you're just like you're not supposed to be here.
Yeah, exactly. And it solves impersonation, because you have a really high granularity sort of signals for who a given person is. It's not like, oh, wrong Steve, So
Well,
and you can
yeah.
reconcile that in two ways, right? You can lean more into the physical world that has all these things already, or you can try to virtualize everything. and put your brain in a context where the simulation works well enough that you can intuit it. But that's way out and also dystopian.
I see Jevi on YouTube saying Bluetooth earbuds are cooking your brain.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's something I wrestle with. I mean, I literally have one in my ear right now. I think one is probably better than two, but I'm not a doctor.
I'll only get cancer on one side of my head.
I I try not to use them that often. I will say that I tried wired buds. Toddlers and wired buds is pretty dangerous for your ear for physical perspective. Like they just rip those things. They just grab that cord. So the convenience I think is pretty high, but hopefully it's not destroying me. I see Jebby. Honestly, one is better than two is probably legit. I never wear two. So I got that going for me. I mean, I want to hone in on the Signal metaphor because Signal is a product that has completely changed my life. It's something that I rely on heavily. It kind of goes back to our earlier conversation where the threat model doesn't involve a hostile U.S. government. Like literally, we would just not have access to Signal tomorrow if the U.S. government decided we couldn't have access to it. It is centralized, but makes a very interesting trade-off balance between convenience and security. It's pretty damn secure and pretty damn private. But ultimately, a lot of the privacy assumptions revolve around who you're communicating with, who's in your group chat, what their security is like. Phones are relatively easy to compromise by sophisticated actors. They can compromise them that way. And the UX though, but the UX is they've really nailed down the UX and they've made it a lot better. I always give the story like my 90-plus-year-old grandmother, I'm not going to dox her exact age, she uses Signal, and it's because it's the only way she gets baby pictures. I've onboarded practically my entire extended family to Signal because it's the only way they get baby pictures. And we have group chats. We have one group chat with my wife's family and one group chat with my family. There's like a little bit of overlap in between. And like that's basically like our baby social media. It's like they just get photos dropped in there. With all that said, even all the great strides they've made, first of all, you have two issues. You have on one side, you have the hardcores that are like, this is not secure enough. This is all the issues I just said, not centralized, blah, blah, trade-off model. They don't like it. It uses phone numbers. Oh, but the other person can't see the phone number. Doesn't matter. It uses phone numbers. Like I won't use it. And then the second piece is just the friction of installing another app, convincing someone to finally install the other app. And I use baby photos as an example because it's a very high threshold. It's something that people really desire. Family really desires baby photos, so you can get them on the app that way. Work-related stuff is like if like you want 1031 to invest in your company, like you're probably communicating with me through Signal. Like you can try through email or whatever, but there's a soft incentive there that like I'm way more likely to respond. So like open sets and 1031, like 99% of my communications, personal work, everything are through Signal. And also I'm just a big deleter. So like I just deleted my Twitter and Telegram. You can no longer DM me there. So if you want to communicate with me, like that's what you got to do. I also don't have a phone number. So like you can't even like just do a regular text. So maybe I'm an extreme. But anyway, all of that said, it's only got 100 million users. Right? WhatsApp is like 3 to 5 billion or something like that on WhatsApp. Signal only has 100 million users. But where I'm going with that is it still has transformed the way I am able to operate my life. It's still a huge net positive for me and plenty of other people. And maybe this focus on a billion users on Nostr is misguided. Maybe we'll get there eventually. But something can be really transformative, even if it's quote unquote only 100 million people or only 50 million people, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, like, talking from the perspective of like the Christian ethic, the the guy who saved us saved everyone, right? He died on the
Right.
cross and saved everyone. But we're called to be servants, and a servant like does a bunch of menial labor for someone who never thanks him, and that's meaningful on its own. And so like once you lose sight of the people that you're actually serving when you're doing something, whether you're building tech or doing something financial or whatever, then you've just cut yourself off from the meaning of doing it. And like yeah, so scale doesn't matter because whether you are able to affect the lives of X billion people, those people are still people and they have certain problems, and there are ways for those problems to get solved. So, like, success is not eating the entire world. Um, anyway, like, the problem with Signal is, like, it doesn't scale. And I was just talking against scale, but I mean a different kind of scale. You know, like, it once you have like 8 people in a chat group,
It's horrible.
it's horrible. Yeah. I started a chat group, a Signal group for my church because I was like, forget it. I'm just going to solve this problem, put everyone on Signal. And it was great until all the guys in the church, all 30 of the guys in the church were in the chat group, and now no one uses it because you don't want to like broadcast every thought that you have to the entire group. And so like partitioning digital spaces is super important to be like, let's sidebar over here and like figure out the logistics for this thing that the two of us only care about, without losing the context of the greater group or like the access controls that are associated with it. So I think that's the place really to go. Is like Signal could do that. They could link chat groups, but it would break the metaphor so thoroughly that I think it would not be well received.
Do you
And
think? Are you a Telegram user?
I use Telegram for one conversation.
So I have a bunch of issues with Telegram, like in terms of like technical decisions, and I mean, I think it's basically spyware. But UX wise, and particularly around big groups, um, I think they do a pretty good job. Like, I'm curious on your opinion. Like the whole like they have like rooms, and then there's sub chat rooms, and there's all the different UX tricks they do to handle big groups. But like big groups is a hard thing to solve, and I don't know what like yeah, big groups is probably like over 20 people.
yeah, and I think WhatsApp does a good job too. Uh, I'm too
They
old.
do a similar thing, right? Like they have like subgroups and stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I need to like actually study those platforms because I think you're right. I think they do a good job with those things, but I'm too old and I don't know how to use Telegram. I can never find any of the buttons. But yeah, I think
But they've added a lot of shit to it over the
yeah.
years.
But yeah, I think that is a better approach. What those guys are doing.
Yeah, I mean, uh, my relationship with WhatsApp is that I install so Telegram I deleted. Um, I recently installed it again and created a burner account because I was teaching like a 200-person virtual class uh, for the Plan B Business School, and the Q&A was in there. Um, and when I did that, first of all, used my first burner phone number I used to try and sign up. I had already been signed up for Telegram, so I just like wasted $5. Then I created another one, got signed up, immediately banned from the platform. Like I have like a bunch of flags or whatever, and then I had to like email support. Like they finally like unlocked my account. I used it for a day and deleted it. But they had the interesting group structure there in the Plan B Business School. They had like all these different subgroups. But then my relationship with WhatsApp is like I usually just install it when I'm like traveling abroad in places that rely on like 100% WhatsApp economy. It's insane.
Yeah.
And that's also super malicious because if you don't give them access to your contact list, which I always refuse access to, it's almost an unusable app.
Hmm.
So I'm definitely guilty and on that front too. And I think that goes to like the earlier thread that has just been, incessant through this entire conversation, which is like we're trying to build alternatives, but we don't really know how the things that we're building against work because we're not using them. And I don't know how we cross that chasm. Maybe it's new people are coming in that don't have that principled stance or don't have that out of touchness that actually make that change. But anyway, my WhatsApp story was uh, I actually did reinstall it for a month or two, about 5 months ago, 6 months ago, because one of my friends' wives got cancer, and the support group was on WhatsApp. And if you wanted to like help support, you had to join WhatsApp. And they had this whole interesting group structure with like admins and quote unquote like privacy settings where you could like who could view phone numbers, who couldn't view phone numbers, who could access which group, who could access the funding group, and this and that. And it was like very, very, very in depth. Um, but then I just, like we paid for a babysitter for a little bit, and I just got out of the WhatsApp group. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I just it's they're trying to solve a lot of these problems, and they try and solve them in a super centralized way. And for a lot of people, that is fine, I think. So maybe, and I'm just thinking out loud, like maybe the end result of like the first quote unquote killer app for Nostr, or the first thing that has like real product market fit, is maybe it's more centralized than the hardcores in the community would like to see. But if at the end of the day you have an NSEC and there's actual Nostr events being published, like that's probably fine. It's still better than the alternative.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of advantages. I do think that encrypted groups can do almost anything that server supported ones can do. Like MLS has all these extensions for, different logic for groups. And like Nostr gives you different content types, right? You can put anything into a Nostr group. And then MLS gives you access controls. And so you might be able to detach from the relays and just have like very few compromises apart from the push notifications thing we were talking about earlier. But I also think like all these social media options that we talk about are sort of a shelling point for what we think social media is. One that a lot of people like that is very different is Skool, Skool, and it's like a learning platform, and they have tons of features that are really strongly oriented at like gamifying and monetizing communities that are oriented at um,
Hmm.
like courses, course material kind of stuff. And it's just it's instructive to see, that kind of thing is never going to have 1 billion users, but they can have 100 million users and really solve their problem well. So there's a lot of room for
And it
solutions that,
looks like they have payments built in too.
yeah, yeah, and payments is part of the gamification, I think, too. So like
What do
if
you
some
mean by that?
Asian platform, it's like you have to pay to join, but then you get paid out for promoting stuff and
It's like a pyramid scheme.
yeah, it's a little bit like a pyramid scheme. Um,
Well, they work. They're viral.
but yeah, like if someone wants to do education focused group chat client, it would look totally different from like a family or church sort of thing. So there's a lot of room for different things. But I mean that that WhatsApp use case of being the thing that can handle any use case, it's obviously attractive and would be awesome if we could achieve something like that.
Well, let's pull it back. Like, how do we get your church group to not use Facebook?
Well, they we don't really use Facebook. Everyone hates Facebook. Uh,
Okay. So what do
yeah,
you use? You use a Slack channel?
some of them use a Slack channel, and then we have a Signal group. And my pastor sends an email once a week.
It's so
That
disjunctive. Yeah.
Yeah, other people send him an email, and then he sends the email to everyone else. It's very centralized, but it works fine. Um, and so yeah, like I think the value of a social media platform would be to create spaces where there's opportunity for informal conversation, where it's like I want to tell everyone something, but I don't want it to be an announcement. Um, I just want to be like, hey, we're having a barbecue this weekend, not hey, 200 people, do you want to come to my house?
Yeah.
uh, those are like really different media. Um, and so yeah, like the ephemerality of conversation is important, partitioning of spaces and members, um, and like having different groups or subgroups based on access. So like, the deacons should be able to talk about stuff without sharing it with everyone else. And like, you don't need that in the same platform. You could just use the signal group for that, and they probably have something like that. So like disjunctive is okay, because that's how life is.
Yeah.
We have these different media to support different relationships, and maybe the media don't serve those relationships well in every case, but a diverse ecosystem is like engineers always want to like distill everything down to the single perfect solution, uh, but and this is something that I think Nostr recognizes in its design, and it's great. Like the repo says don't do the same thing in multiple ways, right? But do a whole bunch of different things. And it's okay if there are multiple ways of doing something, because it breaks down the network effect, but maybe those cater to different use cases. And so having a multiplicity of ways to communicate is like, it's really not that bad. It's more human. Collapsing everything down to a single thing is a great way to objectify and harvest data.
Well, let's like drill into this for a second, right? Because so at the very basic level of Nostr, we have like different types of posts, different types of events. Um, where like kind one is the most used, right? It's got the Lindy, it's the short text note type of Twitter style kind of post. And then, I mean, there's so many kinds I can't keep track of, but uh, from a developer sense, it's ideal if photos are something different than videos or different from calendar events. And why is that? Is because if you're building your app, you want to be able to like easily programmatically determine what type of thing is what type of thing and show the user appropriately how that, when they want to see those things, if they want to see TikTok style videos, like you should be able to easily do that in an app. But at this point of Nostr adoption, it really breaks the very limited network effect we have. And we kind of saw that with OLAS by Pablo, which had a secondary issue of it just, he seems, I don't know if he's going to refocus on it, but he seems like he kind of got distracted and wanted to do something else. But it was posting as a different kind. And so, like, if you were using Primal or Damus, you didn't see it. You just, those posts, you didn't see. But if you put a photo in a kind one note, you knew for a fact that like every major Nostr app would see it. What are your thoughts on that? Like, what are your thoughts on, should we be separating all these things? Is it maybe an order of operations thing? Should we be separating them later? I saw another example of that with Lucas, this Nostr developer created plebs.app, and it's sort of like a video app focused on videos, and he was using a specific kind or whatever. And from someone who's optimistic about Nostr, like I respect that. But he asked me as someone who posts, a prolific amount of video content to Nostr, and I was like, nah, I'm just going to keep posting kind one. Like there's already the network effect is already fucking tiny. Like I'm just gonna post an MP4 link in a short note.
Yeah, I flipped on this recently, and I don't know, I might flip again. But kind ones are this sort of broadcast area where you can publicize everything, and they're widely supported and stuff. But I think it's okay to have network partitioning. That's a feature on Nostr rather than a bug. There is no global view, and there is no global content type that represents everything. And there are different apps. And for the same reason that onboarding is better served by an app that can like own a narrative and stuff, I think content types are better served by a given app. So like OLAS should just do kind 20s and not make kind ones, or try to hijack the Twitter use case with its stuff. Like that's parasitic, and if it was just kind 20, you wouldn't get like duplicates, and you gotta like deal with all these technical problems if you try to bridge over to this other kind.
But do you think that's all true, but don't you think it creates an adoption friction point?
I think it creates a friction point for adoption of apps, but not for users. Like if you're posting a kind 20 and it shows up in a kind 1 client, then it's just not going to be treated correctly. Now,
It's just an image.
Yeah, and I think like kind one
People post images on Twitter, like what they
Yeah,
post articles and images on Twitter.
and in this case, like maybe OLAS should have been a kind one client that only
Right.
put images. Because like, yeah, you can put links in stuff and it's just embedded content. There's not enough of a reason to be like an image is a whole different thing. I think there could be if you really were optimizing for that, but if you want it to be highly visible, then use kind ones. If you don't, then don't. But like, you know, there are certain things that don't fit in kind ones. Like long form blog posts have markdown and kind ones
Right.
don't.
That makes sense
Like
to me.
you just get a broken experience and you're hijacking this thing that's used for a different idiom. So yeah, I mean, it takes a ton of judgment.
And you can always have a kind one that is publicizing
Yeah,
a different kind. Like you can do a short form that's like, look, I have this long form note. I
yeah,
have this blog post.
and I think that's a great pattern because people do that already. Like I made a video on YouTube and I'm gonna cross post it to Twitter, and that's actually how people already use it. And so, and like walled gardens exist for a reason, right? They have these different content types and they also have different demographics. It would be nice to be able to microblog on any microblogging client, but to a certain extent, like I don't really want my microblogging stuff to show up on my actual blog in a single stream or something like that. So yeah, I don't know. It's a really hard design space, but I think people, it's okay to split things up a little bit. It's not going to kill the community because the community exists in kind ones, right? So if you're on a kind 20 client, it's okay if you get less content that's additive rather than splitting the actual social graph. Unless someone exclusively uses kind 20 to post, but I don't think anyone does that, right?
I mean, they did for a while. They were like, there was, I think Derek might have been one of the people behind it. It was like 365 days of OLAS or whatever. And it's like, I never saw any of those photos. And now no one's ever going to see them probably. Or maybe they would, you know, and then meanwhile, they could have just posted an image file into kind one and, you know, their friends would have seen it. I mean, I think that's the goal of posting a photo in the first place is your friends see it. It's just an interesting, like, I agree at scale, it makes complete sense to me. But you have a bit of a chicken and the egg issue. And as both a user and someone focused on building out the protocol, on the user side, I'm a kind one maxi.
Well, there's also another thing where it's like if you can only get kind 20s in a kind 20 client, then you're going to be incentivized to go and use that client. So it pushes users to actually use multiple clients rather than just stay in Amethyst or something like that. And like super clients, I think super clients are great. Coracle kind of is one where it pulls content types and renders them or attempts to render them.
Do you render kind 20s?
Yeah.
Nice.
And so if someone cross posts a kind 20 to a kind 1, now I've got duplicates. And
that's an issue. How do you deal with that?
Well, I don't. Like trying to deduplicate those, that's a recipe for insanity because you're like there's a combinatorial number of ways that like notes can quote each other or whatever.
Right.
And trying to like manage that in software is terrible. So avoiding the problem in the first place, you know, it comes with a cost. There are lots of costs to decentralization, and but you know, I think the interesting thing is discovering what the benefits are to these like partitioning effects. Like I think they can be good for us. They're not just like yeah. I mean, it's the global view thing. There is no global view. It's totally an illusion. And so navigating as a person,
there is no global
with even with different identities too, because like you know, right now a lot of people just are one pub key on Nostr, but you might want to log into OLAS with a different pub key than into your kind one client to purposely split your identity because you don't want to be bombarding all of your like all of your followers who like Bitcoin with pictures of your food, you know?
That's exactly what I was thinking, like cooking stuff. It seems like that's the example that's constantly thrown around. Okay. I mean, yeah, that all makes sense to me. I mean, that's, I think one of the superpowers of Nostr is you can just instantly permissionlessly spin up new identities. And maybe we should be leaning into that more, but I also think that's probably another piece of like, where are we in the adoption cycle? It does kind of fracture the network effect even further again. But maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I will say, as one of the quote unquote larger NPubs on Nostr, when I was on Twitter, I was strictly would only post about Bitcoin. Because I'm kind of anti-social media, and I was using it because I was interested in Bitcoin and I want to interact with the Bitcoin community. And when in the bootstrapping phase of Nostr, I've tried to be more of a person, because people are like, "There's too much Bitcoin content," so it's like I try and post like OPSEC friendly dad photos, without like showing the face. Like I would never, if I was still on Twitter, I would never be posting photos of my kid. And I try and strike a balance to bootstrap that network effect. I don't know. I'm kind of ranting here.
Testimony
Yeah,
that
go on.
it is a community. Nostr is a community.
Yeah.
You are behaving differently because more like you're lending more of yourself to the people on it, which is, I think it's great. It's okay. It's okay even if it gets in the way of scaling. But I think we're still going to scale past it.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's probably that's the opposite thing. Like if Nostr had already scaled, I'd only be talking about Bitcoin.
Yeah, totally. And so your behavior will change, and you'll split yourself into different pub keys, and you'll find your people elsewhere.
Yeah, it'd be like a different pub key that was like talking about dad things or whatever.
And potentially in like a permissioned way. Like, I would not want to broadcast to the entire world the details of my personal life,
Right.
even though I do accidentally or inadvertently. But the whole circles idea is kind of cool. And Fiat Jaff has done a couple of relays that only let people you follow read your posts.
Yeah.
But I think MLS can make that work too. So, and I know people have been talking about that. So I think that'll be, Google Plus. Google.
You're muted. I can't hear you now. You
Sorry,
just cut your intro.
Unplugged my
Okay.
microphone accidentally.
That'll do it.
But yeah, Google Plus. It was a good idea, and Google killed it. So we don't really get to see what what that would have looked like at scale. But maybe we can try it again.
Yeah, they had some interesting ideas there. That's what you mean by circles, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting that they have like such a monopoly on email, and they were never able to bring it over to social in any kind of way. I mean, in a lot of ways, Gmail is a social media client. Just a really horrible one. I have two more topics that I'd like to hit, even though it's been a long conversation. The first big one is your thoughts on monetization, and I'll bring it back because I think this is a big issue on Nostr right now, is that we don't have sustainable, profitable projects. They all are kind of like there's all these one-off grants. Like obviously, OpenSats has been a key part of it. Some people are just working for free. A lot of people are just working for free. Some people are trying to rely on donations like Zaps, but it's just like not scaling. I think Signal is an interesting example here again, on like financial sustainability. And what most people don't realize about Signal is it started as text secure, and Red Phone, and it was actually acquired by Twitter. When you like think about like open source projects, like a lot of roads lead back to Jack, but it was acquired by Twitter. He was going to implement encrypted DMs, never fucking happened. But power to him, he as part of the deal, they open sourced text secure and Red Phone and made it independent of Twitter. And then WhatsApp sold to Facebook and signed a deal with the devil. And they shook hands with Zuck, and Zuck said, "We'll never monetize user information." And then they did. And then Brian Acton of WhatsApp seeded Signal Foundation with $50 million. And they've been running as, a well-polished, sustainable nonprofit ever since that's focused on a single project. I don't think that is a thing that can happen for many projects. Like that's not like a realistic outcome. There was a lot of things that happened there that made that a reality. So I mean, how do you think about monetization, sustainability in an ethical way on Nostr?
Yeah. That's a great question. I'm not a good business guy, but I
Many
think
such cases.
yeah, I think it's definitely hard, and it makes me kind of sad to see people try to monetize because it's not the volume right now. The willingness to pay for customers, for just consumers to pay for anything, but especially social media, is so low. Usually, like 70% of the economic activity on the internet is B2B, because when you are a business, you're buying something, you're buying it so you can make more money. So it's consumers that like ultimately pay because there's so many more consumers than there are businesses, but the amount and willingness to pay is so low. And I think there are good open source business models. Like one is, Red Hat supports, charges for support. I think that's a great way to do it. Charging for aligned hosting as well. So like if you pay for a server, then the owner is less likely to just kick you off at a moment's notice. And so having hosted relays is an okay way to do things for like a community relay especially. And because Nostr has signed data, you can back everything up and restore without, even if you do get
And
deplatformed.
not trust the host. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, the economic stuff. I mean, we already see this with most social media companies. They just had a super hard time making any money. Twitter took a long time to make any money, and it was through advertising that they
Yeah.
survived. So,
They sold out their users.
yeah,
Their
I think
users are literally data cattle.
one thing that does help us on this is that no one has to scale, because scaling was what's crazy expensive. Signal servers are the cost center. Twitter servers are the cost center, and a developer is relatively cheap. If you got a couple developers, you pay them like 30,000 a month. Like that's cheap for a business, and so you only have to scale to like 100,000 users or something like that. Like really, really small levels in order to survive. I would love to see that.
Like little profitable small
Yeah,
businesses,
yeah,
basically.
exactly.
They're making like $1 million profit a year, $500,000 profit a year, and they cover their expenses with a little bit of juice left over.
Yeah. I don't know how realistic that is, but with a protocol that realigns incentives towards the user, I think users will appreciate that, and they'll be much more willing to pay for a product that isn't already taking advantage of them in multiple other ways. Um,
There's a couple of pieces there. First of all, historically, users have been very hesitant to pay for things on the internet. Um, but we've seen X move to at least a paid plus model that users have seemed to be adopting at least a little bit. I mean, their main business model is still very much advertising. Um, and the AI tools, a lot of I mean, they have real costs associated with them, but people seem to be willing to pay actually a significant sum for a lot of these AI tools. I mean, people are paying for ChatGPT, and ChatGPT still harvests all your data. Um, but they're paying, 30, 50, $100 a month sometimes for these tools, sometimes more than that for these tools. So that's an interesting trend to watch. Like maybe, I mean, and these are big companies. Like if the big tech companies start transitioning people to paying for stuff, then maybe we can ride that wave. On the piece about hosting being the most obvious business model, it is. But the problem with that too is it's the part that has the most cost and also the most liability. Like I think Nostr Build has built like a little nice little sustainable small business. Um, but I mean, I know firsthand from the primal side, like the amount of like CSAM scanning and stuff that you have to do is insane. Like it's a business that is not an ideal business to be in. Um, I don't know.
yeah,
It's going to be a struggle.
it's interesting to speculate whether encryption is going to help with that or hurt. Like if you're hosting a bunch of encrypted stuff on your encrypted media or encrypted groups on your server, like are you liable for that, and according to whom? Um, you don't know what it is, so you can't really do much under United States law. I think that's okay, but it might be very difficult for people under different jurisdictions. And like, are we doing the right thing? Are we helping people that way? Like, I strongly believe that if there are some bad actors out there doing illegal things, that is an acceptable cost of freedom for everyone else. But it's like there is no perfect solution. Um, and but yeah, I think protecting service providers from liability is a good way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think encryption does help, and that I mean, this is the fight that Signal's been fighting for a while, and I mean, you're very right. Like America's the best jurisdiction to be in that regard, but also they have an amazing front person like Meredith Whittaker. Speaks to it way better than I could ever speak to it. And she came from big tech, which is fascinating. Her story in general is actually really interesting. But yeah, all roads keep going back to Signal, by the way, and just on how I think about a lot of these things, if it's not obvious.
Yeah, it's paradigmatic. Like you're saying, it's like it's a very special project. It doesn't happen very often, and I think
Yeah.
the same is true of Nostr. Not quite obviously at the same scale, but Nostr is a pretty special thing, and it can't just be replicated architecturally and get the same sort of like natural social growth.
Yeah, I mean, the organic viral developer community is something that I've only seen in Nostr and Bitcoin and Cashew. It's very, very rare. It's not something you can just create out of thin air. Like Base will not have a viral open source, and it doesn't matter how much money they throw at it. They might be able to buy off the content creators, but it's
Well, that's
really
one of,
hard to get organic, like developer interest in these kind of things.
sorry to interrupt. Do you
They're
know how
good.
Threads is doing? Because Threads, I mean, that was what, a year and a half ago
I
or
think
something.
people use it.
They use it. Huh.
They signed up every Instagram user. I don't know. I've been outside of the Facebook ecosystem for so fucking long. Like the crazy thing about Threads is like Zuck, and to people that aren't aware, Threads is Instagram's ex competitor or Facebook's ex competitor. He just signed up all Facebook users, or at least all Instagram users, automatically or Threads users. It was like when they dropped the U2 album on iPhones. He was like, "We have like the second most users of any app." The day after launch, he just added everyone automatically. But I assume people use it. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, Perplexity tells me that they have 115 million daily active users and a million new daily signups, and
But
that
like also like that's completely trusted. Like we're just trusting Facebook to tell us.
and Perplexity.
Yeah. Like that's the other thing. Like user numbers, people get obsessed with Nostr user numbers because we can actually make independent estimates because the whole system is pretty open. Um, but like there's like user numbers are just so fake across the board. Like no one really knows
Oh yeah, they
what real
absolutely
user
are.
numbers are.
And like it's shocking how so many of these big tech platforms just blatantly lie about user numbers, engagement, about like even ad spend to ad partners. Like
Yep.
there's a bunch of instances where they just defraud other businesses because there's no accountability or transparency. It's insane. Yeah.
I mean, anyone who's ever paid for like Facebook ads or X ads, they'll tell you the same thing. Like it tells you like 100,000 people like interacted with this thing, and then you get no real, you get like no real engagement out of it.
Yeah, there was
So
some
something doesn't connect.
that was spending $100 million on advertising every year, and they were just like, let's see what happens if we just don't spend any money on advertising, and their sales did not change at all.
Yeah,
It was all
exactly.
organic. Yeah, it's insane.
Um, okay, last topic for you before we wrap. You just published a book. You self-published a book on Nostr, building on Nostr, building out Nostr. What is it? Why did you do it? Why should we care? Should we read it?
Yes, you should read it. Uh, yeah, it's called Building Nostr. I've been reading a lot, been doing my podcast, talking to interesting people for a few years, and there's a book that I really want to read, which is like, okay, well, how do you fix the internet, and what's the internet for, and just like a lot of the stuff we've been talking about now. Unfortunately, Well, I tried to write that book. I got 10,000 words in and I gave up because I don't have the answers still. So I wrote this book instead, which is just all the stuff that I've learned about Nostr and what makes it special. You know, what sets it apart from all these other protocols, how to think about developing on it, because there's a lot of really weird choices that are not conventional. Like an example is, like DIDs. People always show up to Nostr and they're like, "Why are we not using DIDs? Let's use DIDs." And it's like that's a pretty conventional idea in the decentralized tech space, but a lot of this stuff comes from the leftists who have like a flawed mental model for thinking about it all. And another example is namespace qualified names. So like social.coracle dot kind one, or whatever, note or tweet or whatever.
Yeah.
And instead of kinds, which are just numeric. And what numeric gets you is you don't have conflicts and you don't have semantics, and therefore no one owns the namespace. Because if everyone has to adopt social.coracle's namespace,
Right.
like I get to make the call, and you see this. It's like it's meaningless, but it's a human bias to assign ownership to things. So there's just like a bunch of stuff like that in Nostr that is not intuitive. It's not how I would have done it. A lot of it's very ugly, but there are huge lessons to be learned from how it's set up, and it's really interesting. And it also forces developers to take on a different sort of paradigm when developing Nostr applications. You hijack existing kinds because things are sort of similar, or you hard code relays or whatever. And relay selection is a big deal for keeping things decentralized. So I just wanted to share what I've learned about Nostr development since I started, so that people who have not yet learned these lessons have the opportunity to, and also to feed it into the LLMs to make them make better Nostr software as well.
And it's specifically developer focused.
Yeah, very, very developer focused. It's not like ultra technical or in the weeds, but you definitely have to have a mental model for, developing software in order to understand a lot of what it is. It's also kind of philosophical. Like I talk a lot about different kinds of communities, and I make a lot of stuff
it could be helpful to non-developers as well, you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, do you count yourself as a developer?
No.
I mean, you understand Nostr better than some developers do. So you could read it, and you should read it. I think Derek Ross is excited to read it.
I'm technically curious.
Yeah, there you go. Technically curious. That's good enough, I think. It's written in human language. There's not a lot of code in the book.
Okay. I'll definitely check it out. And you released it for free. I'll put the link in the show notes, freaks.
Yeah, it's at building-nostr.coracle.social.
I'll put the link in the show notes. That's a perfect example, by the way, where a namespace would be very helpful with a shorter domain. But
yeah,
freaks, if you enjoy the book, or if you enjoyed this conversation, make sure you zap Hodlbod on Nostr. Show your support. It's a true value for value endeavor. Releasing the book out for free. It is cool. I think that's an interesting scaling layer for open knowledge and open source software is the rise of AIs, is that kind of stuff does get fed into the different LLMs, while a lot of the closed stuff doesn't, even though they're all dealing with like copyright rules and manually scanning books and shit, stealing news articles, which is a whole different quagmire. But
yeah,
it's kind of interesting. It could scale this whole movement a lot more. Hodlbod, this was fantastic. I actually thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I entered it pretty tired, and we just blew through 2 hours without me even really thinking about it. I had a lot of fun with it.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. I enjoyed it too. It's always a pleasure talking to you. You're a great host, great interviewer, very sharp. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for saying that, because I don't always agree with you or agree with that. Do you have any final thoughts to the audience before we wrap?
Go read my book, but first go read Understanding Media by Marshall McLuhan. Technology is a environment in which living things exist, and it's a complex system, and there are negative externalities, and the relationship between technology and people is really complicated, and that's the best book that I've read for understanding what the heck is going on. It was written in, I think, 1963, so pretty old, but really, really interesting, enjoyable. So I would just, everything I can do is point people towards that kind of stuff. Philip Sheldrake is also good. Ivan Illich. Just read more, I guess.
Read more, freaks. Words of wisdom right there. Stop doom scrolling and read more. Hodlbod, this was great. Freaks, thank you for joining us in the live chat. Thank you for supporting the show. All the relevant links are at citadeldispatch.com. Share with your friends and family. Hit the subscribe button or don't on your favorite platform. You do you. I have Callie joining on Wednesday. Next Wednesday, Callie's joining 1600 UTC. Join us live. I'm sure it'll be a banger. Always is. Hodlbod, I enjoyed this, and you have a fascinating perspective. We'll do this more often.
Sounds good.